Hey guys, how's it going? Lauren Sana here, sitting here with Bill Johnson. We're so excited to have him here, Holy Spirit Conference 2013. We're just going to be having a conversation with him, asking him some questions from the community. And Bill, we're really excited to have you, man.
Thanks. It's good to be here always fun.
Thank you. This is our honor, our privilege to have you, man. It's really exciting. First question I want to ask you, man. I actually read your book a little bit ago, When Heaven Invades Earth. Mm-hmm. Incredible. Honestly, for me, I read it and it's just how practical the supernatural should be, you know? Mm-hmm. And so how do you and how have you implemented that, just the supernatural in your church, in your everyday life? How has that kind of just practically happened?
You have to make room. It can't be a side thing. It has to be something that you intentionally make room for. Whether it's in personal life, you're looking for people with problems. If you're leading a church gathering, right, a home cell, whatever it might be, you have to create room for God to show up and do what He does. He seldom invades, without invitation, and He certainly can. He's God, but typically, as you look through history, you find people that just have great courage and they make room. So, our whole deal is we cry out in private to the Lord. In public, we take risks.
I love that.
Yeah, that's it. And then you want greater breakthrough, you go back to the secret place, cry out more.
That's great, man.
Yeah, that's it.
Get in the secret place, get out, take risks.
Yep, that's it.
That's awesome.
It's real simple.
And you guys have really seen a move of that. I mean, it's not just in your church, but it's outside of the church. You see healings, miracles.
We have more outside. More outside than in.
That's incredible.
Yeah, we have, they're daily. I don't know that there's been a day in our city where there's not been something extraordinary happen for many years. So
wow.
Just because there's people that just expect it, they look for stuff, they look for problems. It's not just doing outreaches, that's fine. But the problem with outreaches is that you can turn it on and turn it off.
Right.
But when you pray for people while you're shopping, while you're visiting with a neighbor, then it's something that's continually on. There's no off button.
Yeah.
You can't, you're much less likely to hype things when you don't have an off button. It just comes out of the normal flow of daily life. And so, yeah, we do see a lot of stuff. We see a lot of disappointments too.
Right.
We see a lot of things that don't work. And it's just one of the risks that you take is you expose yourself to possibilities that you wouldn't have considered otherwise.
That's awesome.
And it's worth the risk.
So if you were to try and tell other churches, would that be the formula? Go in the secret place, take risks. Is that any other church, any other leader? That's your advice for them?
That's what I do. There's another element though, and that's be intentional in your relationships, in the people you connect with, the ministries that you receive from, because there's an impartation.
Right.
For us in 1987, we had been praying for the sick with no results. And I went to a John Wimber conference. Nobody laid hands on me.
Wow.
I didn't learn anything new, to be really honest. It wasn't a revelatory experience. It was an environment. I came home, it was on me.
Wow.
Nobody prayed for me. It started happening. It literally started right away. And it's hard to explain, but you surround yourself with the right kinds of people.
That's good.
And if you have to fly to the other side of the planet to get in that environment, you just do it. I had friends years ago that there was so little happening in the U.S. that they would every 2 or 3 months they'd go to an international place in ministry because the miracles were easier there, and it would give them the courage to come back to the U.S.
That's awesome.
But now there's so much happening here that they don't have to go overseas just to get a booster.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's amazing. So, would you say that's across the board? I mean, not just signs, wonders, miracles. Finances. Do you go to someone who has the gift of finances or
anything, everything
across the board?
Family life, everything. You just associate with the right people, and you start to carry what they carry.
I love that.
It's the whole grace model that Jesus taught in Ephesians 4. He says, "I've given you apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, teachers." And he said, they equip the saints.
Yeah.
Well, study through it. They equip them with grace. Grace is the enabling power of God. So when you receive from anybody's ministry, whether they have title or not,
right,
there's a grace imparted, and that grace enables you to live where they have breakthrough.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, that's good.
I got kind of 2 questions, but it's in the same kind of vein. Now, I know you've passed like the leadership of the church or the pastoring of the church to your son, right? Mm-hmm. And as far as like even Banning was preaching this morning, I noticed last night you were here, this morning you're here, and just the whole concept of fathering, with your natural son And then even with your spiritual sons, how have you guys done the transfer? How have you prepared the next generation to pick up the mantle of your mantle, or, people have gone before you? How's that whole fathering and transition kind of happened?
You have to believe you have something to give, first of all.
Right.
God intended for a next generation to inherit a movement and take it to another level.
Right.
But strangely, it's never happened in history that I can find. It's always declined. And so you have to have the understanding, I think, you have to have the understanding of God's intent. He takes us from glory to glory. There's no end to the increase of his government. So he's constantly moving forward with increase. So once you have the conviction of the assignment, then you start preparing the next generation prophetically, training them in hope, expose them to responsibility. Don't punish them when it doesn't work right.
Yeah.
You don't do that. You go back at it again. And when your child's learning to ride a bike, when I taught my the boys how to ride the bike, I took them to the park where there was a lot of grass.
Right.
So that when they fell, they would fall on the grass.
That's good.
Because it was going to happen. And I wanted to make sure to create the environment for safety, for their benefit,
Yeah.
so they can learn as they're experiencing. That's what you do just in life. You expose people to responsibility.
Right.
You prophesy, give them hope. You declare what God's doing, give them opportunity to stretch their wings and do it.
I love that.
Yeah.
So, we've been seeing at our church, we've been seeing a transfer. And I know at your church, you've been seeing a transfer. From your ministry, Jesus Culture is a whole movement of young people pursuing God.
Right.
And you said that it hasn't happened as far as the revival transferring over. What do you think stops that? And as far as, you're seeing it right now, in your ministry, and I feel like we're seeing it, but what stops that from happening and sustaining that revival?
I should maybe make a quick comment. The only time I do know of it happening in history was David to Solomon.
Right.
If we could call that revival, it would be the model. How do you transfer?
What do you think stops that the sustaining revival? I guess.
Well, there's a lot of things. For example, in great healing revival, there's such a price to pay.
Yeah.
There's so much opposition, so much public criticism, there's so much persecution. I don't know this for a fact, but I think what happens is you have a dad who pays a price, passes it on to his spiritual or natural descendants, and they work to sustain the accomplishments of the father instead of to increase.
Yeah.
Oftentimes they don't want to pay a price. The descendants of the revivalists, the Wesleys, Whitfields, all those guys. You don't ever see it going to the next level. And I have this sense that they saw how their parents suffered, and they want to learn to maintain. So they build monuments, they build libraries and universities and organizations and all those things in the memory of. I don't honor my dad by building buildings in his name. I honor him by going where he didn't have time to go.
That's awesome.
And that's what you do. You honor forefathers by embracing the grace that they left you. They created a momentum. You take serious the responsibility of what inheritance looks like. And inheritance is when you get something for free that someone else paid a price for. So now, which I received. So if I now want to leave an inheritance to my kids and my grandkids, I have to pay a price to increase what I got for free.
Yeah.
There has to be a price paid. Yeah. And so I think that's where it stops. I think it stops when you got people that really, they don't want to do they don't want to pay the price, to be honest. They don't want to quite be publicly ridiculed and all that. And so they tend to play it safe.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And I think even being like the younger generation for me is I found that I think a lot of times we almost think that we know better, or, and there has to be an alignment, I think, and I think you're right on. And I got one more question before we wrap up, is, ministry, and it's like, not even ministry, but life, it's just, sometimes it's hard, and being in the ministry, I've heard it's almost common with, preachers messing up, having affairs, or, getting into this, getting into that. What would you say is one of the number one things to, one, protect your marriage, two, to keep it flourishing, and even like your family, your kids, to keep them growing, and to not sacrifice them like on the altar of ministry, I guess? What's something you've done?
Well, they just have to be more important. You can't, if you're highly ambitious, you'll be very tempted to make ministry first.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to sacrifice that ambition thing because it'll pull you off center.
Right.
You know, there are things that you have to value that really only stand out. You know, they stand out in quiet. They stand out of the public eye. They stand out when you're just alone with family night or whatever. Those things, you start seeing what's really important to you.
Yeah.
If there's that anxiety because you're not accomplishing, you're not achieving, then, you know, just it needs to be a warning. You know, put a knife to your throat, so to speak, if you're a person of great appetite. Put self-imposed restriction in place.
That's good.
So that you can really focus on what's important.
Gee, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, we all do good when we're exposed to need. And in ministry, we tend to get exposed to other people's needs.
Wow.
And you know, if you have somebody starving in front of you, you're gonna want to give them something to eat. You know,
right?
Because we're pulled by compassion. Well, turn it to family.
I love that.
Turn it to family. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Bill, I think we're out of time here, man. But I'm super honored to talk to you, man. This is amazing stuff, guys. Hopefully you got something out of this. I did. This is incredible. Thanks again, Bill.
Yeah.
We love having you here. And guys, check this out. And we have interviews with Banning and Rachel Hickson. Check those out. We'll see you guys next time. Love you guys. Thank you.